Canto 23. Summary. Beatrice has brought Dante up and into the heaven of the fixed stars. His eyes are on her in great expectation, waiting to see what will happen next. All of a sudden, 1,000 pricks of light appear and begin to descend. They represent the whole company of heaven, everyone who, up until now, has been glorified. Beatrice names them the triumph of Christ, as they are the people he purchased through his triumph on the cross. As Dante gazes, he sees one sun coming down above the host of stars. It is Christ himself. Medieval cosmology held that all the stars were planets and therefore reflected the light of the sun, instead of being suns in their own right. This cosmological understanding lies behind the image, as the pilgrim sees Christ as the only source of light, which is then reflected in all the other souls. In other words, the only reason Dante can see any spirits in this realm, or in any sphere, is because they reflect the light of the Son of God. However, as Dante sees the divine substance directly, his eyes fail him, since Christ is too magnificent for his mortal eyes to behold. His senses are overpowered, and he blacks out. After he recovers, Beatrice invites him to look at her, for now that he has seen Christ, even for a brief moment, that sight has given him the ability to behold the radiant smile of Beatrice. She then directs his gaze to the garden of souls that remain in the heavens, for the sun has returned to the Empyrean. Beatrice points out Mary, the rose, later called a sapphire, and the apostles, the lilies. As the pilgrim gazes upon Mary, the brightest star remaining, he watches as a circular torch hovers over her and spins round, singing a hymn of praise. The rest of the host joins in, singing the Regina Caeli, the antiphon calling on Mary, the Queen of Heaven, to rejoice as her Son has risen. Canto 23. Starry Sphere. As the bird, among its beloved boughs, perched upon the nest of her sweet young chicks throughout the night that conceals things from us, to behold the faces of her desire, to find food whereby she may nourish them, heavy labors which to her are pleasant. From an open branch expects the moment, with ardent affection awaits the sun and watches only for the dawn to rise. So too my lady, erect, attentive, oriented herself to that quarter beneath which the sun shows less urgency. Therefore, seeing her, I, suspended, eager, became like one who, full of desiring, wants something more and is content to hope. But the time was short between one moment and the next, my waiting and seeing the heavens come more and more resplendent. And Beatrice said, "Behold there the ranks of the triumph of Christ and all the fruit harvested from the wheeling of these spheres." Her face seemed to me to be all aglow, and her eyes were so full of happiness it must be passed over without a word. As in tranquil skies, when the moon is full, Trivia smiles among eternal nymphs, who paint the heavens in every region, I saw, above many thousands of lamps, a sun that kindled every one of them, as ours kindles the stars we see above. And from within that living light appeared his shining substance, so bright in my eyes that they could no longer sustain the sight. "O Beatrice, O sweet and precious guide," she said to me, "that which overcomes you is the virtue from whom no one can hide. Here is the wisdom, here is the power that cleared the road between heaven and earth, for which there has been such a long desire." As bolts of fire are set free from the clouds and burst forth, no longer contained by them, and, against their nature, rush to the ground, so also my mind, having grown greater amid this feast, issued forth from itself, and cannot remember what it became. "Open your eyes and observe what I am. You have seen things by which you have become mighty to maintain the sight of my smile." I was like one who comes back to himself from a forgotten vision, and who strives in vain to bring it back to memory, when I heard this proffered to me, worthy of so much gratitude that ought never be quenched from the book that records the past. Were all those tongues that Polyhymnia, along with her sisters, had fattened up with their sweetest of milk now to sound forth, to help me, it would not reach 1,000th part of the truth. hymning the holy smile and how pure her holy face had become. And therefore, in depicting Paradise, it is necessary the sacred poem should jump as one who finds his way cut off. But he who would think of the weighty theme and the mortal shoulder burdened by it would not cast blame if he shook beneath it. This is no passage for a little bark going forth, cleaving waves with a bold prow, or for the pilot who would spare himself. Why are you so enamored of my face? You turn not to the beautiful garden that flowers underneath the rays of Christ. Here is the rose in which the divine word made himself flesh. Here are the white lilies, by whose fragrance the good path went its way. Thus far Beatrice, and I, always prompt to her counsels, gave myself once again to the battle of my impotent eyes. As under rays of the sun, shining pure down through rifted clouds, my eyes once beheld a field full of flowers covered by shade, so here I saw many throngs of splendors made brilliant from above by ardent rays, without seeing the source of their brightening. O warm-hearted virtue that stamps them thus! You lifted yourself up to grant a place for my eyes, which had not yet strength for you. That lovely flower's name, which I invoke both morning and evening, gripped all my soul until I could make out the greater flame. And when to both my eyes had been pictured the worth and greatness of that living star, who outshines there as she did here below, down through the heavens descended a torch in the shape of a circle, like a crown, winding around and wheeling about her. Whatever melody sounds sweetest here below, and draws the soul most to itself, would seem like a cloud riven by thunder compared to the sound of that lyre whereby the beautiful sapphire was crowned, with whom the brightest heaven in sapphires itself. I am angelic love, encircling round the glorified joy that breathes from the womb that was a dwelling place for our desire. And I will wheel round, Lady of Heaven, until you follow your Son, entering that supreme sphere, making it more divine. Thus the circling melody stamped itself, and every one of the other lanterns began to sound forth the name of Mary. The regal mantle to all the turnings of the world that is enlivened and burns most within the breath and customs of God, was keeping its inner bank over us, at such a distance that its appearance was not yet appearing there where I was. Because of this, my eyes had no power to follow after that crowned flame who, after her offspring, raised herself upward. And just as an infant raises his arms toward his mamma after taking her milk, as his soul is kindled in outward form, each one of the brightnesses raised its peak heavenward, such that their deep affection for Mary was made obvious to me. Then they remained there in my sight, singing Regina Caeli so very sweetly that delight has never parted from me. Oh, how great an abundance is stored up in those richest of coffers that down here were good husbandmen in scattering seed. Here they live and take joy in the treasure they acquired with weeping in their exile in Babylon, where they forsook the gold. Here, beneath the exalted Son of God and Mary, triumphs in his victory, together with the councils old and new, he who keeps the keys of such great glory.